for me, the more I do, the more
That's the way it works.
yeah, for me, because I can like think of it faster, but I have to just do it over and over again.
Okay. Am I crazy, or can you read the writing on there? It's not mirrored or anything like that, is it?
No, I can read it.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I feel like this is
Like when you take a selfie and you're writing on your shirt.
right. I was like, is that readable? I think that's readable.
Yeah, I can read. It starts to fade out on the right, but
The
that's
first
about
one was reversed.
Oh, okay.
The first lesson, and I was like, oh man, and I was so careful to make sure you can see the board.
No, this looks good.
Okay, good. I'll leave it.
Any more cheers? Do we have more cheers?
Yeah, there's more chairs.
Oh, there's some at the front.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's just shy. They don't want to sit up front.
I know, that was me. That's what gave me back. But then I realized the microphone's here.
Okay, so look at my nose.
This one that we were doing last time. See, this one. We gave that to us, and so there's
Here we go.
so they say edge and hi Vincent. I've got little pieces of it there. That's neat.
Right? Nice to meet you again. Next time you have dinner when we did the workshop. Nice to meet you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Made it there yet.
That's in that different dialect because it's
Is it? Oh yeah. Chapas.
Yeah, and I mean,
I just figured, yeah, they're so close to. Yeah. Different though.
She's got the
Use this shot. But my father's DGW, and I've worked in the DGW territory for over a decade.
The other one's coming around. Did you already grab one?
What time?
No,
Is that something else? Okay, go on.
All right.
Sorry.
Weather? He might have changed them, so he's adapting constantly.
Right.
Grace isn't coming?
Oh, sorry. During the break, I'm gonna plug in my computer, because after the break, he wants to see Quizlet.
okay, then yeah, because I looked at the one on here and for some reason I don't have it.
Well, I have it already on my computer, so I'm just gonna plug in my computer.
Okay.
I gotta try to remember.
And so I did the practice. Serious.
He worked on it too.
But I always usually hear it in the crowd. You are welcome. So as far as I know,
Maybe not here, don't know. I just came back to the table.
There's no other fence. They have about 50 here.
She said she had more, but maybe in another room.
Chairs.
just got you.
Is your mom coming, Jenna?
I was hoping.
Oh, okay. There's a hand.
George, Tahoas, Wama, Siwa. Ayatukni, Koas. We have a lot of people tonight. Ayatukni, Koas. Tahoas, Wama, Samah, Siwa. Anisutawea, who Takshir, Kutas, Atikshitla, who watches at Istishat, Anihit Apniwa, Ukokopias Nisma. Aku ayat ani hisap niwa aku mahti atikshit sitla yakesu eksu no eksu yakesu asa hel katsosu kan mamuk unut ani so hachatak icha yakat nakkan. So we'll say to Manakwik Wix Chikshit was so Atsikshit Hoko Atsa. Ukich Waak Hoko Atshit. George Hoko Atsayin. Let's speak to Channel. Welcome everyone. I acknowledge the Upachasad and Sasha people on whose land we are and the Huayets who are hosting us in their house. I'd like to welcome some of our friends who we haven't seen in a while. Tahoas, Wama, Siwa, Nukmismin, Hawehtuis, Ish, Wamtis, Ahad, Chester, Poatitsuk, Empty, Umis, 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 Umis. So we love Panishtia. So Sekata Aaron Bree, Ushakshitayets, Boatsachik. Thank you for coming back. Good to see you again. So Pam, Ushakshitayets, Aphe Sita Mets, Boatsachik. Thank you for coming back. It's nice to see you again. Tonight our goal is to talk about weather. We're going to learn the core of what we're going to study tonight is 12 words for weather. Some of you will be familiar with them already. Some of you may be learning them for the first time. And then we're going to practice putting them in some simple sentences. I found that weather is a great way to start making sentences because weather sentences can be very simple. It is raining. Mitlama is a very simple sentence. Mitlama. It's about as simple as the Newtonal sentence can get. If you look at this handout, I will go through the words with you, and then I'll go through the conversations which demonstrate the language we're going to learn. And we'll get as quickly as possible to practicing speaking. Does everyone have a copy of this handout?
Can I just right off the bat ask a question? The ma that kind of attaches to all of this, what does the ma mean?
It means it is. But in a more technical sense, it's a mood ending. And a mood ending in Newtonal is required for a complete sentence.
Okay.
Yes, it also means he, she, or it. So we could also say, oh, ma, Shane, he's Shane. That's an example where it refers to he. And there's a lot more to say about it, Giles, but and please interrupt me with more questions when you have them. I get people who've come for the first time to sign up. Yes, Justin?
Is this central or is it?
We mainly study Barclay dialect here, but I also have materials for people who want to study other dialects.
Thank you.
So I'm going to leave this sign-up sheet with Peggy. And if you're already on the list, you don't need to sign this again. But if you want to get on the list Chester, then please give me your contact info and you'll get messages about these classes. Okay, let's review our words. The core of the words we're learning for this unit are 12 weather words. Uqumhay. Uqumhay. Wiqsi. Wiqsi. Uukuk. Uukuk. We cook. We cook. Opa. The reason why tupa is on there twice is that some dialects have different words for hot and sunny, but other dialects don't. And this is the dialect that just uses one word for all of those things, hot and sunny. Yes, Brie?
So like, for example, today I went to an elder, I went klupa tea. Now, can you use klupa as an item as hot, or is it just weather?
It's only for weather.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, and I have some notes on that. If you're talking about a thing like a plate, you could say topafma. It is hot. Topafma. And in the central dialect that you're studying, you'd say topafish. It is hot. Masuk. Masuk. Mitla. Quissa. Litwahak. Uchhak. Yui. Okay, here's some pictures of different kinds of weather. You should all have this. Don't write on this, or at least don't write on this side. I think it's important for learning that it really helps our learning if we have pictures to point at and look at and think about while we're talking. And it'll really help you start to understand and internalize Nuchanov words if you make a direct connection between the Nuchanov word, like wiqsi, and its meaning without using the English translation. If you want, you can write English translations on the back of this, but I encourage you not to write English translations on the pictures, and you can even completely do without English translations. I think that this is a simple enough topic that most of you won't need that. If you need to check something, you can come back to this handout. So let's see if we can identify each kind of weather here. Let's start in the upper left. Can anyone tell what that is? Wiqsi. Yeah, that's intended to be wiqsi. Compare it to this one. Yeah, this is just windy. This is rain and wind and waves. So this is stormy. Wiqsi. Okay, next one. It is uukuk, but this picture is meant to represent uukuk because it shows pretty mountains, clouds, sun, birds flying, trees, flowers, a river. That's uukuk, because uukuk describes any nice surroundings. This is specifically showing a calm sea. Did I hear someone say tinhook as well? Tinhook could also describe calm water, but right now we're going for uqumhay. So far we have wiqsi, uqumhay, uukuk. What do we have here? Weequok. Yeah, these are dreary surroundings. Clouds, dead trees.
Dead fish.
What do we have here? Akanat Hanas. How's the day here? Very hot, right? Akanat Hanas. How's it here? Lasuk, cold. Akanat Hanas. How is it here? Sunny. Uchkak. Uchkak. This is meant to be fog. You know, in this mountainous terrain, you can really see. I often see the fog clinging to a certain elevation, right? So that's what that picture is trying to show.
Oh.
So we're gonna use these pictures. You can use these pictures just to practice your vocabulary, but we're also going to use them in some conversation games. Yes, Alison?
I've heard snow is queez. Is there a difference? Like the actual looking at it?
Queez, queez is the thing, snow, and quisa is snowing.
Okay.
Describes the weather. Yeah, roughly speaking, they're a noun and a verb. No, there isn't a word for the noun range, just for the verb. There is a word for the fog. Fog is witchiness, but foggy weather is witchicuk. Generally speaking, one of the major differences between Nuchanov on the one hand and English on the other is that English has lots of words for abstract ideas. It's lots of nouns for abstract things you can't really touch, like love and rain and anger. And Nuchanov doesn't generally have abstract nouns like this. Nuchanov has nouns for concrete objects, but abstract things are almost always described with verbs. So we talk about someone being angry and it raining, and we don't talk about rain the thing as a thing. We don't talk about anger as a thing in Nuchanov. There's a way to do it, but we generally don't. I wrote this because some people ask me how to say good evening. Some people do say meaning it is a good morning, it is a good evening. It is a good night. This is an attempt to translate the English greetings, good morning, good night, good day. So when I prefer not to use the greeting, although many people do, it's not wrong. I just like to say when I see people in the morning, and I say tupshik when I see them in the evening. And you can pick your own greetings. Are there particular greetings you use at Hahopayak? Klosmakuat.
I use Kroshikuat.
Kroshikuat.
That's my.
Okay, let's look at the rest of our words. Nashit. To look at nashit. This is in our words because when one way to start a class is to talk about the weather, and often when I'm doing a class, I'll ask everyone how's the weather, and sometimes people won't know because they haven't noticed, and I'll tell them to look. Nashiti. Take a look. Nashiti. Aken. Aken. How? We'll use this when we ask how is the weather. Aken athatna. Hua. Hua also means how. We need most question words in Nuchanov have two versions, one for direct questions and one for indirect questions. And I'll come back to what that means. Nas. Nas. Nas is a very important word. It means the day. It also refers to the creator, and we can also use it to refer to the weather. So we're using it here to talk about the weather. Yeah. Anachis. Big and little are in our words because we also want to be able to talk about it being very rainy or only a little rainy, very foggy and not very foggy. Dialects, we use the words big and little for this. In some dialects, and anachis can describe the actual size of things, but they also are used to mean very or not very. That's not the case in this dialect. In this dialect, we'll generally do that with certain endings. The endings hak and skin. So if we want to say that it's a little bit foggy, we'll say uchkak skinma. It's a little foggy. Uchkak skinma. If we want to say it's really foggy, we'll say uchkakwak ma. And we'll get to that. That's a more advanced word building strategy. Let's take a look at our conversations. These are the kinds of sentences we want to be able to make. Let's start with conversation one. Kokma. It's nice weather. Kokma. Anima Anima. So you've all heard this many times. This is one of our survival conversations. It's a go-to conversation for when we run into someone. But we can apply this to any weather. Now that we know a bunch of weather words, you don't always have to say kokma. You can use the actual weather that it is on that day. Let's go on to conversation two. Akan athat nas. Akan athat nas. Do you hear that nas starts with a hard N? Akan athat nas. Nas. Raise your hand if you don't know what I'm talking about.
We've just been saying this.
So everyone knows what I'm talking about?
I just don't know how to do it.
When I say that na starts with a hard N, I mean that the N has a at the beginning of it. Na. Na. It's not na. Na. It's na.
Could you say the whole word the wrong way?
I'm sorry?
Say the whole word the wrong way and then the right way.
Okay. All right. Don't say nas. Say nas. Nas. This is a distinction that Newchannel makes that English doesn't. And before I heard Newchannel, I was really worried that I wouldn't even be able to hear the difference between na and na. And I'm glad to say that you can actually hear it. It's not as outlandish as I first thought it might be. But you have to put, since it's not in English, those of us for whom English is our native language need to put forth a little bit of extra effort to pronounce hard sounds until you get used to it.
Kind of like, good.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, just do. It is.
Yes, Caitlin?
At Hoboken, we put kla'ui at the end instead of a na.
What's that?
Yeah, that
When we
works.
asked what the weather is.
Yeah,
Is that still right?
Or just
Yep.
no nos at all, hey?
Yeah, sometimes we don't put the
Akina,
na
huh?
at all.
yeah. Tahwi means now. Yeah, so these are just slightly different questions. Akanat hat nas means how is the weather? Akanat hat tahwi means how is it now?
Okay.
And you could even use all of them. Akanat hat nas tahwi. How is the weather now?
Is there a word of akna
Yes.
That's something too?
Yeah, can you tell me what akanat hak means?
I just thought it was how's the weather.
No, it means something else.
How are you?
Question.
It's a question about you. The K makes it about you. How are you?
How are you?
How are you? Yeah. Akanat hak. How are you? Akanat ha. How is it? The weather isn't it, so the ending is hak. Akanat ha nas. How is the weather? But if I'm talking about you, then the ending becomes hak. Akanat hak. How are you? Akanat hak.
Okay.
And I also mentioned
And it's
last.
spelled exactly the same, just with a K on the end?
That's right. And I mentioned last week that how are you is a neutral greeting in English, but it's not neutral in Newchannel. In Newchannel, we generally say akanat hak only if there's been something wrong with you, and I'm asking how you are now. Like, are you better now? Are you still sick? The neutral greeting in Newchannel is hak hak. Is that you? Which is not neutral in English. Here are some possible answers to akanat hat nas. These illustrate some of the different kinds of sentences we want to make. Khitwa hakma. It's cloudy. Khitwa hakma. Here we've made a simple sentence just by adding a mood ending to a weather word. Uchhak skinma. Uchhak skinma. It's a little foggy. Now we've thrown in the ending skin, which means a little bit. Metakakma. It's really raining. Metakakma. Here we're using the ending kak, which means very or a lot. Haya'aka hpa'ate nats. This is in here because of teenagers who usually want to answer I don't know. So I started putting negative answers in my material so that they would know how to say that in Newchannel. This also shows us the difference between a direct question and an indirect question. How's the weather? Akanat nas is a direct question. It means that I'm directly asking you for information. Haya ka hwate nas, I don't know how the weather is an example of an indirect question. I'm not actually asking you for information, but how the weather is has the form of a question, doesn't it? But in this sense, I mean it as a question to represent information that I don't have. You see that? And in English, the difference between a direct question and indirect question is quite subtle. It's reflected only in word order. So in a direct question, the word order is how is. But in the indirect question, the word order is
How the weather is.
yes, what's changed is the order of is and the weather. So direct question is the weather, but in the indirect question, the weather is. You see that? Because you're all native speakers, you don't even have to think about that. You just know how to do that. People who learn English as a second language have a lot of trouble with that. I had a Polish professor who spoke very good English, except he could not do that. He never knew where to put the verb in the sentence. In Nuchanov, the difference between the direct and indirect question is much more explicit. We actually have to use different question words. So when we're asking a direct question, how, the word is aken. But when I'm making an indirect question about how, representing information I don't have, then the word for how is hua. It's also reflected in the mood. Ha, the ha ending is the question mood, and it's only used for direct questions where I'm asking you for information. But in an indirect question, we'll usually use the weak mood, e. You see that? So ha asks a direct question, e asks an indirect question. And that's why we have aken in this one, hua in this one, ha in this one, and e in this one. And we'll keep coming back to direct and indirect questions. It's not something that you want to think too hard about if it doesn't make any sense to you yet. Wait till you know several examples of direct and indirect questions, and then we'll come back to it, and then I think it'll start to make sense to you. Okay, let's move on to conversation 3. Wikseha. 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 Is it stormy? Ha, Wikseha. Yes, it's stormy. Ha, Wikseha. Wikma Wikse. Okumhema. It's not stormy, it's calm. Wikma Wikse. So here we're seeing an example of negation. Negation means when you want to say the opposite of something. In English, we negate sentences using the word not. In Nuchanov, we negate sentences using the word wick. Wick is a standalone word. It always comes before the thing it's negating. So in this case, we're saying it's not stormy. Wikse is the word we're negating, so wick comes before wikse. Wikse, stormy. Wikse, not stormy. The thing that's difficult for people is that wick will take the mood ending, if there is one. So if you're used to saying wiksema, some people will want to say wiksema, but that's broken Nuchanov. In Nuchanov, we actually say wikma wikse. Wikma wikse. It's a very simple pattern, but it takes some getting used to. Do you see that? So now I'd like you to turn to your neighbor and ask question 2A and get a response. And I'll give you 1 minute to do that. Ask in both directions. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll start.
Did anyone have trouble with that? I think that some people are having trouble pronouncing mainly because of the barred lambda, right? So let's review the barred lambda again. What does a barred lambda sound like? What's our example word for barred lambda? No, not pleco, because pleco has a hard barred lambda. No, that is a good example word though. Atla, meaning two, is a good example word. Klama is our example word. Klama, meaning a house post. Klama. The barred lambda sounds kind of like a TL, but not really. Another way to describe it is that it's a plosive L sound. It's an L sound, but unlike the English L sound, which is a resonant L, the barred lambda is a plosive L. Kla. Kla, meaning it starts in silence and then has a small explosion. Kla. 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 And if that makes sense to you, that it's a plosive L, then great. And if it doesn't, then you can ignore them. In this word, it's in the ending ak. 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 Some people are comfortable making a barred lambda at the beginning of a syllable, like in klama, but they have more trouble saying it at the end of a syllable, like ak. Ak. So if you're one of those people, you're going to have to slow it down and keep trying different routes to get at it until you find one that works for you. So let's practice saying ah and ha slowly. We'll break it into syllables. Ah, ken, ak, ha, ah, ken, ak, ha, ah, ken, ak, ha, nas, tah, uyi. Aken akha nas tahui. And I've also broken down aken akha nas because this is worth looking at. Aken, as we've said, means how. Ha is the question ending. Nas we're using to mean whether, although it means other things as well. And ak is the important ending that is difficult to translate. We often translate it as now. But it is now in the sense of something has changed, not now in the sense of this moment. Klah is now, it means now in the sense of this moment in time. Ak is now in the sense of, oh, he's better now. Now he stood up. That now in English means that something has changed. And in Nuchonal, these are completely distinct. Klah is a standalone word, meaning this moment. Ak is an ending that we get. We see all over the place. And all it indicates is that something has changed. And since the weather is always changing, we typically use it by default when we're talking about time or the weather. We'll almost always use ak. So literally, how is the weather now? Like, I knew what it was like 5 minutes ago, but how is it now? Let's take a look at some word families. I want to help you understand the deeper meanings of some of our weather words, so that they're not just strings of sounds. 4 of our weather words, upomhe, upok, wipok, and wiksi, are based on 2 important roots, up and wip. The root up is a positive root. It refers to positive feelings and positive surroundings. Wip is its opposite. It refers to unpleasant feelings and unpleasant surroundings. So ukmis means pleasant or pleasure. It's good. It refers to good feelings. Ukmis. The opposite is weakmis. Weakmis. Miss is just a generic it's a generic ending for intangible things. Not necessarily intangible, but things that are hard to pin down, hard to define. Uchkmis, meaning fog, is another example of mist. Ukumhe, we've seen, calm weather. Ukumhe. Its opposite is wiksi, stormy weather. This is culturally important because in the old days, people traveled almost exclusively by canoe. And if the weather was ukumhe, then it was safe to travel. If the weather was wiksi, it was not safe to travel. That's why these terms are so important. Uukuk. Nice surroundings. They can refer to the weather, but also to the landscape. Weekuk is dreary surroundings. So there's some local differences from dialect to dialect. How people use ukumhe versus uukuk and wiksi versus weekuk. But generally speaking, you use wiksi and ukumhe when you're talking about weather on the ocean, and you use uukuk and weekuk when you're talking about weather on the land. But in a lot of cases, they're interchangeable. So you can call a nice day uukuk or ukumhe, whichever one is appropriate. But be aware of the slight difference in meaning there. Ukumhe and wiksi refer to whether the weather is safe to travel. Uukuk and weekuk refers to whether our surroundings make us feel good or not. Uakt also has the root u. You see that? Uakt. In this word, the Q has turned into a pharyngeal stop. This happens a lot in Nuchal. Uakt. Uakt refers to happy, which is being happy, which is a pleasant feeling. Its opposite is weakt, which means angry. Here it means angry. There's a lot of variation from dialect to dialect in what the word weakt means. In the north, weakt means sad. Down here it means angry. So I'm going over this to help you appreciate what exactly uukuk, ukumhe, weekuk, and wiksi mean. And to understand the slight difference between ukumhe and uukuk, and also to be able to recognize that all of these words that start with uk have something in common. They're things that make us feel good, whereas the things that begin in wik are the opposite of that. Here's another word family. So this answers, it was you, Bree, right, that asked how to talk about an object being hot as opposed to hot weather. This is a problem that English speakers have with Nuchal, because in English we can use the words hot and cold to describe a wide range of things. But in Nuchal we have specific words for describing hot and cold depending on what we're talking about. Topa and mathuk are just for describing weather. So topa is hot weather, mathuk is cold weather. But if you're talking about an object like a bottle, then if it's hot, I would call it topa. If it's cold, I would call it massage. Massage. Yeah, hot and cold to the touch. Okay. The wall is hot. Massage, the TV is cold to the touch. Not really, but it's an example. Yes, Bree?
So is that sound at the end of glupash?
Topash. Yeah, you're getting the sound.
Yeah.
But it also has a long vowel. Topash. Yeah, the rhythm of topash is short long. Topash. Hear that? Topash. Now, if we're talking about the temperature indoors, then we use tlukmith or masmith. Tlukmith ma'aku. It's warm in here. Tlukmith ma'aku. Topama hitas. It's hot outside. Masukma hitas. It's cold outside. Tlukmith ma'aku. It's hot in here. We also have special words for vessels. Nuchal has a rich vocabulary for talking about vessels. A vessel is anything that keeps liquid in or keeps liquid out. So a canoe is a vessel, and a bottle is a vessel. And if you have, if it's hot, and all the vocabulary that we use to talk about canoes, a lot of that gets carried over if we're talking about cars. So if it's cold in your car, then it's mas-ahs. Mas-ahs. If it's hot in your car, then it's tlukmahs. Tlukmahs. Mas-ahs mahubukwes. The car is cold. Mas-ahs mahubukwes. And we also use these words for describing liquids in a cup. So if we're talking about hot tea or hot coffee, that's tlukmahs. Tlukmahs mahwapi. It's hot coffee. Mas'ahsmati, it's cold tea. Mas'ahsmati. So what those have in common, canoes, cars, and mugs, is that they're all vessels. Last, if we're talking about how we feel, then we use different words again. Tlop means to feel uncomfortably warm. Tlop yihama, I feel hot. Tlop yihama. Chitas iha means feeling cold. Chitas ihama, I feel cold. Chitas ihama. And notice that with chitas iha, we have a different root.
Over here, I see.
All our other cold words have the root mat, but this cold word has a different root, chitas. You might also notice that sometimes the root for warm or hot has a P, as in klopa, klopmi, but sometimes it has an M. And there's a lot of words like that in Nuchonal that sometimes have a P and sometimes have an M. If you think about it, M and P are very similar sounds. They're both made with the lips, right? Ma, 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 ma. The only difference is that M is a nasal sound, a resonant sound, and P is a plosive sound. Yes, Marie?
No, it's true that Barkley dialect has more m sounds than Peshquit. Is that correct, or Central?
Well, there's the ma ending,
Okay.
which is exclusively used in Barkley dialects.
Oh.
But I don't think I'd say that either dialect has more M's than the other. Because it's the same language. They have most of the same words. But if someone said that, they might have been talking about the ma ending.
I think that's what it was, yeah, because that's what I've been told by a few people I work with. That was just a difference.
To say I feel cold in Barkley dialect, I would say chitas ihama, I feel cold, chitas ihama. But in Central, I would say chitas ihas, I feel cold, chitas ihas. Same word, different ending. Ditidat, we would say chits ihs. Chits ihs. So you hear that chits ih is related to chitas iha. So I showed you those two word families so that to help you appreciate the meanings of the words, and also to warn you about this common pitfall that people learn the weather words topa and mathuk, and then they think they can use them to describe anything that's hot or cold, which you can't. There's a quite developed vocabulary for talking about different things. But as a rule of thumb, if you're talking about how hot an object is, then hot or cold an object is, then use topa and massage. So now we'll do an exercise using our pictures. I will assign you a partner to work for the next 8 to 10 minutes. If you're still struggling to learn the words, then you should go through these pictures and just name the different kinds of weather. Wait, say, Slipwahak, Topa, Mathok, Topa, Mita, Quissa, Yuik, Kuchkak. If you have some comfort, even if you don't know them perfectly, but if you have some comfort with those words, then you should start to make sentences. So start with conversation 1 and substitute in the different weather words. So instead of ugulpokma anima ugulpok, we'll go wiiksima, it's stormy. Anima wiiksi, it sure is stormy. You get that? Wiikokma, it's dreary. Anima wiikok, it sure is dreary. This is the next level of difficulty up from just naming the weather. Once you can do that, then you can move on to conversation 2. One partner asks, nas, how was the day? And the other one responds with different weather words. So here you're not being truthful, you're trying to practice the different weather words. So try, nas, how's the day? Wahakma, it's cloudy. Nas, how's the day? Masukma, it's cold. Nas, Isalma, it's snowing, and so on. And I think that'll give you plenty to do for the next 8 to 10 minutes. Hilda, Benson, and Chester, can I assign people to work with you, or would you rather observe?
Just observe.
Okay.
If you need me, you can assign somebody to me.
Okay, thank you, Hilda. So I think Daryl and Allison, can I assign you to work by Hilda? And if she wants to correct you, she will. Angie and Marnie. Bree's studying Central. Is anyone else studying Central? I'll put Bree with David. Okay. Serena and Aaron, you're good? Darren and Katie, and Shane, Cynthia and Mario, Sheena and Pam, Zach and Giles.
What's for me?
I'm trying to do the work. I don't get
Okay, so okay, so that one is fixed.
So what are you working on? Are you still learning the words? Good. Well, I suggest that one good way to do it is for one person to point a picture and try to name them, and the other person can look at the answer sheet and correct, and then switch.
I can't look at that. I didn't know that. I think that's what he said, 1%.
They are all.
How do you say short?
Dreary, cloudy.
So I would like to start memorizing. I don't
Sorry, let's we say what's up.
Good job. Or is it more of sometimes I use but sometimes it's
Yeah, I'm so caught up in that strong
Where is the okay, yeah, but is it
Also,
This one we've been using for the day, and I do the action, which helps me. But it could be snow too. Double eye. Okay, now all the ones that we don't. Oh, okay. How do you say where? Anyway, you got it. I'll say the next. Which cup? Which cup? You go.
I remember what he was
Yeah, I can get Ready? I'll read. No, you can read it too. Just read the order. Actually, let's do this one. I support.
So what do is they want you to create the whole snap, which is no, I don't have the sound, but the sound is and so it's not get it wrong. What it's gonna do is
Is that enough practice time? Would you like 5 more minutes? 5 more, okay. 5 more. Do you mind in the second hour if I put you in?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so
He was a little more optimistic about the weather.
Yeah. Here.
Let's come back together. Let's debrief a little bit. How many people started just by practicing the weather words because you needed to? How many people got as far as conversation 3? Yeah, that's good. I will try to put you with people with whom you're similar in skill level but different, so that usually one of you will be more advanced than the other, and the more advanced person's job is to help the less advanced person practice. The less advanced person needs to use their words and say where they're at and what they need. The more advanced person will want to go forward and challenge themselves. So you guys have to find common ground where you can work. And if I put you with someone who's too different from you in skill level, then please let me know, and I'll try to avoid that combination in the future. Some of you are already trying these endings that we're going to learn a little bit about in the second hour: skin, huck, and ut. So we can make longer sentences about the weather by using these endings. Mitama, it's raining. Mitama, it's really raining. Mitlaha atma, it's really raining now. Mitladskin atma, it's raining a little now. You can make these longer and longer words. Wikma kusa.
How can I say I'm tired of the rain?
That's tough. I don't know. I might say, yeah. I don't know. Vincent, do we use weep up in your dialect? The word weep up for not disliking something? Wimakshieta. That's what Vincent would say. Wimakshieta. Mitle.
Yes.
He's writing it. How do you say? Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
We look cheap, which I don't like. In Ireland.
That's central.
You say the same thing. A lot of our words are saying.
And it's good to stretch our abilities by trying new and difficult things, but it's just as important to get comfortable with the basics first.
Yeah.
So it's not going to help you to know how to say "wimakshe tah mitle" if you can't say "mitlama."
I can say my comma.
Any other things you found while you were practicing we should discuss?
If I want something, if I want sun.
That's complicated. Yeah. Like I might say "inis tlopshitko." Hopefully it'll get sunny. "Inis tlopshitko" is one way to say that. But that's not simple. We often find that something that's simple in English is complicated in Channel and vice versa. Yes, Bree?
Like the one word I was surprised, what was it, bum, is innocently.
Yeah.
And it's like, like bum is just one syllable, and innocently.
Yes, innocently, right? Innocently means bum in Channel, and it's a complex word. Innocently, not only long, but it has more than one meaningful part. Same thing, just dialect difference. Yeah, some dialects prefer "hinasakli," some prefer "amasakli." George, who said to Akhen? Who said to Injani? 4-minute break. Who said to Injani?
It's been a while.
Actually, a bit of an shot. I didn't realize I go through it. Gotta get another bowl. Gonna come out if he wasn't working.
There's different sides.
I'm back.
Look at you go. What's the strange thing in the middle of the ocean? You call it the green tea. That's what I was trying to do.
We didn't bring the cake.
We don't have to know how to tap one anyways. Oh.
Not for a long time. Since a couple of weeks ago. That's what made me think about it actually, but I saw you guys, I was like, oh, that's so weird. I've never, I don't know if it was
Maybe a set.
I didn't actually have one.
Because there was,
I haven't seen his name for so long. I went and took.
Gail Johnson was calling me.
Richard Does
I think Dave was gonna get a hold of her for March 2.
Anyway, we went and visited him
Over there and take care of
with Richard and Does. I haven't seen him. Thank you.
Well, boss. Gotta fire you up, you know.
Difference between C and F.
So they didn't have so much money.
There we go. Part of the problem is that English.
I'm pretty sure I'm at
It's impossible.
but you know what's possible about
Adam said it's like 7 years.
They want to see chips. Chips. Yeah. English we can't say chips. So people do one of two things. Either say chips or chips are possible.
So it's like, we should learn the.
Coralie is marrying Don't marry, we're related.
What's it called? Macaws have a different word.
But I was thinking like, I was thinking here, then the high part, so I was thinking, oh, would you like on a rock? Then you could say, would you like some tea?
I thought about it just as I started.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. I don't know. It doesn't mean it sounds like a bar of work. It does sound like it was. Yeah. No, further than they're at. Yeah, because most people who lived on Vancouver Island in the old days never turned off that. And they would have named specific villages that this is not the whole thing because it wasn't.
I want to see
They would just name specific tribes. Yes. Well, the language is called, well, the Kwakwa is only the people.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Absolutely. I think I have some CDs actually at my desk. If you give me a moment, I'll go take a peek now and see if I can make one for you tonight. That'd be awesome. Otherwise, I might have to connect with you another day for next week. But I'll go take a look right now, see if I have it here.
Car, right? Every time it's turned on, like, it goes to green. That was great.
Yeah, so when I asked you. Behind it against that TV there, the story.
Skinny thoughts.
Yeah, that's my, yeah, we have grandmother.
He's 10. JD was my angel. Oh, yeah. Mother.
It looks to your TV.
The Wi-Fi password is
So you have to be a parent.
That's what we got into foster. And then they think that we both just trying to wrap your head around who these kids are. And finally, we had a man, we renovated the house and built a second one.
Yeah, it's on the bucket. It's on the bucket.
We have
Sure, not a kid will be okay with that. Bonnie, that was from like 1987, so it's getting from the history national.
Yeah. It was like 28, 29 every day. Yeah, it was nice.
Now I've got the stock chick, Lisa, Angie. Angie and Lisa are going to give us a short demo of the Quizlet system that we're building and how it can be used to practice Kuchana.
Lisa's gonna do extra.
Oh, here we go. Now, there it is.
There it is, my chick.
That's your Lisa Tremblay, Histachakla, Franklin River, Uhukwa Umitsu, Francis Zimmerman, Uhukwa Eta, Nuitsu, Louis Zimmerman. Hi, I'm Lisa, and didn't know any Nuchano till this year, so practicing. So I worked for School District 70 and as part of the Aboriginal Resource Team, and Adam just wanted us to show because Angie uses it a lot at home. I use it, my husband uses this Quizlet program with his French classes. And just French, okay. And so what it is it's called Quizlet. So if you just go to your home computer and type in Quizlet, it'll come up. And L Tremblay 67, that's me. But if you type in New Channel,
Is that your birthday, Lisa?
I know, it's not bad. That's probably bad.
No, I'm
I
I look way too young for being born in 67.
So you,
I turned 50 this year, so it's a sensitive subject. At my birthday party, I said, I can't believe half my life is over. And someone said, half.
So if you type in my name or you type in New Channel, you'll see some things that come up. So this one says New Channel, Adam Worley. And these are the survival conversations. Plus, like last class, we learned a bunch of classroom vocabulary, so I added them whenever we learn stuff. So you can see all the choices here. I just added this today. This says New Channel's vocabulary lesson supplements. That's because we're making lesson plans and putting them out in the school, and we're putting New Channel's vocabulary in it. So today I decided I'd make this little extra page, and I'm hoping at some point to get some audio so the teachers who are using the resources we're putting out there with the language have a place to go and see how those words sound and how they look like. So, so this one covers states of matter vocabulary because there's a grade 1 science unit out there that Adam helped me with the vocabulary part. So if you click on New Channel, Adam Worley, and you can see here's the weather words we did today. And it gives you all these choices. The easiest thing to start with, right, Angie, is the flashcards.
Oh, I do the matching first.
Oh, you do the matching?
I do the matching first.
Okay, so I'll click on the flashcards. And if you see here, it'll give you options. If you click on the options, then you can change to what it starts with. Okay. And the audio is off because that means the audio will come on right away. So you can have that option, but I like to click on it. So then now it's starting with English. I find for my learning, I don't know how you feel, Angie, but I like to start with the New Channel. And for sometimes they're kind of mixed up. So you just have to, like it doesn't recognize New Channel, so it comes up a little different.
There's no sound on this?
So you can click on the sound. So you can see how it is. And then you click here and it flips. So that's calm weather. And then I go down here and I go to the next card. And that's what I do. And then I press the audio to make sure I can say it right. And I check and go, okay, stormy weather. Okay, so this is this one. And then you can see Angie says she likes the matching.
Where's the list?
Oh, sorry. If you go to the back, whoops. Oh, a big time.
Oh, yeah.
But they're all listed under here.
Okay, yeah.
You can check how other people do when people register sort of with the class. And you can compare, like if you do the matching and it's a game, start game. And then you have to, right? Oh, the pressure. Did I do right?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Oh, these ones I don't know.
Yeah.
The greetings
on the beginning, and we're just like
we have a request to
and
go sorry. I find some of these quite hard, like the learning one quite hard, and the test because you have to write, and if you don't have.
But the thing is too with the learn and the write, it helps you. Like, let's go to learn. We need to show them all of it. To learn. Okay, so you multiple choice. first, and then you pick one.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, multiple choice. Yeah. Tells you that you're right. And then let's go to, if you do right, then you go to right. Okay, now we're gonna go to right.
Après, c'est notre chips.
And say small, and then you type it in, and but if you don't know it at all, and I don't worry about if I know and go up to don't know, what you don't know.
You look many times.
Yes. It should show you the right answer, then you can write it in yourself. I just do that over and over again, I go back and forth. Yeah. And now it's, before it didn't have the sound, like the sounding out of the words, but now most of them have it. Okay, now we need the list.
And you can, there's tests, and then there's live games, you can play with other groups and stuff.
What's gravity?
Oh, that's gonna be tough.
With
my friend Shane,
It's
they
always
got
a
something-
game. Let's do easy.
Okay.
I haven't, I'm terrible at this, but you have to type in.
You have to type whatever word before, it's gonna.
You have to type it in before
Yeah, I
the
think the
answer.
English word comes
So
out,
there.
and you either have to type in English or
When-
make that is. If
Okay.
it gets the bottom. then you get it.
I know.
I didn't know I had to actually play.
With this song, you better play.
I just want to, Adam only gave us a few minutes here. I have invited a lot of you to join, and most of you haven't, so I don't know if it went to your junk mail or,
Try pressing back on the actual window. Up higher.
Yeah, I've never seen.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
There you go.
Okay, so, there's a lot of people who are, Andy really wants to go back to.
Because I want to show them something that I do when the list, when we have the whole list.
Okay, okay.
Whole list of what? Whole list, when we get to greetings, so that's how I was practicing it.
Oh, so if you go down to the greetings section, is that what you mean?
There's a part in that greetings. Okay.
But your state says, there you go.
Sorry, it makes me nervous having everybody watching me.
I never had.
You're done.
We have the list.
You're almost halfway there.
That list?
Okay, yeah, so what I do is when I want to practice it, when we do that A/B thing, you can actually do that on here. You get the person to say, you press on the audio, that person says that, question, and then you're gonna go back. And you're gonna answer it, and you're gonna answer it, and I do that, and I go back and forth, sometimes I ask, and then I press the other one, it's like the A/B thing that I do with that, so. That's helped me a lot.
It's there to, there's a class progress thing, there's all kinds of things up there. Since I have the floor, I just want to really quickly show you some other things, is that the AVID team, we have a Facebook page, and on there we do a Nechano phrase of the week. Here's, I use my kid, so here's the one we did this week. And also you have, I have it on Twitter and Instagram. And I also have a YouTube page that there is some Toronto language videos on here. So whenever I look for stuff, if I find them, I throw them on the YouTube page, and it's open for you to use. If you like it, they're helpful. And I have a Pinterest page. I have 134 lessons on there. They're not anything to do with language, but for those of you who teach or are looking for fun activities to do with your kids, there's, there you go. So you've got, so that's there, and it's all available for you. So, go ahead hopefully join the Facebook page or the Instagram page, and then when you get the phrase of the week, it's good practice too.
That's bad. So I was gonna tell you too that if you guys have smartphones, Quizlet is an app you can download in the App Store too. So I just do it on my phone instead of having to like go to your computer all the time.
Oh, thank you.
just
I
have it
haven't
right on
tried
your
that.
phone.
I do mine on my iPad.
Yeah.
It's with me everywhere.
So,
But if you just download it, you have to go to Lisa's, though, right? You have to, because you can't just start it anywhere, right? Or how do you get to yours then?
You
If
can
go to
search
Quizlet-
Neutrona.
Just search
Oh,
Neutrona.
okay.
You just search Neutrona.
Or El
Okay.
Trombley 67.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm just.
Some of us aren't.
My rate was 77.
So, just.
Should be 87.
I have, I don't know if that's been shown, but I do have a lot of people waiting to be members who haven't clicked in, but I think you could go on there without joining membership. Anyways, it's there for you, but hopefully it's helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Wish I should do it.
Brittany?
I don't do
I'm
the
on
tests.
this now.
I don't even do the tests.
While Brittany is setting that up, I want to share with you some info that
I've already baked.
Chester and Benson shared with me. One of the things I said is that I learned to use matahs to talk about whether it's hot or warm inside a car. But both Benson and Chester say that if they're talking about how hot or cold it is inside a car, they would use the words tlukmi, matmi, the same words that we used to talk about in a building. They would also use in a car. Matmi, tlukmi. Everyone uses those for a building. They would also use those for the inside of a car. Here's a word that I know for buckling, having a buckled seatbelt, which is matahs, which literally means tied in a vessel, matahs. Chester and Benson confirmed that they've heard that word, but the usual way they would say buckle your seatbelt is apwinuatli. Which literally means like buckle your belt, right? Apwinuatli would be buckle your belt. Apwinuatli is like fasten it around your middle.
No, that's afternoon.
Apwinuatli is what you told me.
Yeah.
Apwinuatli.
Yeah.
So this should be a T. Apwinuatli.
Yeah, that's putting your seatbelt on or your regular belt.
Also, there seems to be a variety of words for feeling cold. Caitlin said she'd heard something different from Chitasiha, and Chester and Benson also gave me the words Mahiha and Mahakstuk. These are other ways of talking about feeling cold. Shane asked how we would say there's snow on the mountain. He tried to say it, replacing English words with Nuu-chah-nulth words that he knew. But this is an example where Nuu-chah-nulth has a particular way of talking about something that we can't predict from an English point of view. When we're talking about snow on the mountaintops, the usual word I've heard is quispei. Quispei. Quis meaning snow, pei meaning on top. So we could say quispei ma nuchi. The mountains have snow on top. Quispei ma nuchi. So when we talk about where things are located, when we are talking about things versus indoors versus vessels, Nuu-chah-nulth has specific ways to talk about all these things. Yes, Bree?
So another word for, sorry, just go back to the word cold. It was makda, not mikda, but makda. That's what we say at work. I know Chisma and Chipot, they just makda-ish. Is that's correct, Dave?
Yeah, but when they do that, this is sign language just to help kids figure out the meaning. But when they're saying makda-ish, they're talking about the temperature outdoors. They're not talking about feeling cold.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And I am going to put all these notes up on the web at some point. So even if you don't copy them all down, you will have access to them that way as well. So what I'd like to do with our last 17 minutes is
Holy cow.
Oh, sorry.
talk about
This is real tunnel.
is help you learn how to make some slightly more complicated words.
She had a chiropractor appointment.
Talking about the weather, when I teach children, talking about the weather is one of the things I usually do every single day. And I found out very quickly that once the children learn the words for the weather and they learn how to make simple sentences like Mitama, it's raining, Kusama, it's snowing, Wikma, Kwisa, Sewa Hakma, it's not snowing, it's cloudy. Once they learn those simple sentences, they want to make more nuanced sentences like it's a little bit cloudy. Or, you know, they want to, kids of a certain age are really concerned with describing the weather how it really is. And if it's only a little bit cloudy, they don't want to say Sewa Hakma, they want to know how to say it's a little bit cloudy. So we're going to learn how to do that. Any of our weather words will go over here. Wahak, Yupi. Let's see. And then after that, if we choose, we can use one of these modifying words. Modifying endings. Skin and puck. We will also often see the ending up when we're talking about weather. And after all these, we'll get our mood ending if we're making a complete sentence. So when we were asking about the weather, we said, how is it now? How now? How is it? How is the day now? And then when some of you got to conversation 2, where you were answering it's cloudy, it's raining, everything all right? Did you do something with that?
Mario needs to write home. Well, possible.
So let's make some simple responses to Akanat Hatnas. Give me a response. What might we say about the day? If I asked you Akanat Hatnas. Yeah. Mitla ma. Good. It's raining now. Mitla ma. What if we threw in Ak? How would we say that then? It's raining now. Mitla Ak ma. Mitla Ak ma. Mitla Ak ma. It's raining now. Mitla Ak ma. Akanat Hatnas. How is the day now? Mitla Ak ma. It's raining now. Okay, give me another answer to Akanat Hatnas. Uchkak. Uchkak. Okay. Uchkak is not a complete sentence. Uchkak, foggy. Uchkak ma. It is foggy. Okay. How about if we threw in ak? What would it sound like then? Say it again. Good. Uchkak ma. Uchkak ma. Okay, now we're seeing that one of the complications with ak is that it's a hardening ending. That's what we mean by the exclamation point. Uchkak ends in a consonant that can harden. K can harden to a hard K. And so we do uchkak ma. You hear that? The hardening goes onto the K and makes it hard. Uchkak ma. Okay, let's build that word again. Uchkak. Foggy. Uchkak ma. It is foggy. Uchkak. Foggy now. Uchkak ma. It is foggy now. With mitla does not end in a hardenable sound. So if at comes after mitla, the hardening is just pronounced as a glottal stop. Mitla at ma. Let's build that word. Mitla. Raining. Mitla ma. It is raining. Mitla'at.
Mitla'at.
Raining now. Mitla'at ma.
Mitla'at ma.
It is raining now. Yes, Shane?
So you said when you're trying to say if you wanted to say it's raining a little bit or a lot, how would you say that?
Let's give it a try. How do you think you would say it?
Well, the way I seen it, yeah, or big, and on it's small, so a little bit, and because it was in the weather in here, I thought it might be referring to the weather.
Well, some dialects you can say that. Some dialects you can say ihma mitla. Literally big mood raining, and it means it's really raining. Ihma mitla. But in this dialect, that's not generally done, and instead we would use the kak. Okay. And some dialects can also say anah isma mitla. It's raining a little bit. In this dialect, we would usually use skin. So let's try. It's raining a little bit. How do you think we would say that? Good. Mitlat skin ma. Mitlat skin ma. And because syllables in Nuchanov begin with exactly one consonant, the C will be at the end of the preceding syllable. The K will be at the beginning of the next syllable. So the syllables are mi, tat, skin, ma. Okay. How about it is raining a little bit now? How do we throw in the noun? Mitad skin atma. Mitad skin atma. There is a hard end in Nuchanov, but this ending does not harden that end. Instead, we'll get the glottal stop. Mitad skin atma. Mitad skin atma. So let's build that word, and then it'll be your turn for me. Mitla. Raining. Mitlad skin. Raining a little. Mitlad skin at. Raining a little now. Mitlad skin atma. It is raining a little now. Yes, Brittany?
Earlier tonight, you said that sometimes the mood follows the first section, even when you're word building. When would that happen in a situation?
Well, the mood would go directly on this stem if there's nothing between them.
Oh, and if there's
But if there are other endings, they will come before mood. Mood is one of the last endings in a word.
Oh, okay.
Most endings come before mood.
Is it with wick?
Yeah.
That's what it was. Sorry, there was something that was.
Yeah, and if we have a wick in our sentence, then wick will take most of the endings.
Okay.
So it's not raining. It's not raining now. Wick atma mitla. Wick atma mitla. Let's build that. Wick.
Wick.
Not. Wick at. Not now. Wick atma. It is not now. Wick atma mitla. It is not raining now. Yes, Chester?
That's mostly, it's a shot here, talking.
That's right.
There's a
When
Hawaiian over
it's
here too.
raining a little bit, we say into us.
Into us.
Yeah. If somebody asks you if it's raining, you say into us. It's raining a little bit.
So would you say, if we made that sentence longer, would you say into us ishmitla?
That's a central one.
Eshquit?
Mixed with Eshquit and Euclid.
So into us is a special word meaning a little bit in central dialects. And I don't know if it's used in Barclay dialects. Can anyone confirm or disconfirm whether into us is used in Barclay Sound dialects? I only know it from a Hausa. So with skin, there are no special complications with adding skin to something, but it can create significant clusters of consonants that can be challenging to say. With ut is a hardening ending. It likes to harden the sound that comes before it. Some sounds can harden, some sounds can't. There's a number of quite simple patterns in how this works, but until you get familiar with them, it can seem very confusing. Next, let's look at kak. Kak also has some complications. We write the first Q in parentheses because it's only pronounced when needed, usually after a vowel. So with to say raining a lot, we say mitlakak. Mitlakak. Mitla ends in a vowel, so we need this consonant because every syllable in Nuu-chah-nulth has to start with a consonant. There are no syllables in Nuu-chah-nulth that start with a vowel, and we absolutely never see two vowels next to each other in Nuu-chah-nulth. Any two vowels will also always be separated by at least one consonant. But if we have a word that ends in a consonant already, like uchkak, then this Q will not be pronounced, and we'll get uchkakwak, very foggy. Uchkakwak. Yes, Carol?
Now, when you harden it, would it add a glottal stop at all sometimes, or?
Yes. Yeah, we get a glottal stop when the last sound of the stem can't harden. So, for example, mitla can't harden. So after mitla, this hardening becomes a glottal stop. Mitla ak. But with uchkak, the K can harden, so we'll get uchkak ak. The other thing that kak does that's weird is, you'll see I wrote SS here. That SS means that it likes its stem to have two short syllables. So if any of the syllables are long in the stem, they get shortened when we add kak. Mitla has a short, long rhythm. Mitla, hear that? Mitla. But when we add kak to it, it becomes mitla kak. Short, short, short. Mitla kak. Mitla kak. That's the effect of kak. It likes its stem to be short. Okay? Wixi has two long syllables. Wixi. Wixi. Stormy. But very stormy is wixikak. Short, short, short. Wixikak. You hear that? So I don't think we have time for another conversation practice tonight, but instead I will help you build a few words so that you can see the power of knowing just a few endings. With these 12 weather words and these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 endings, we can make dozens of different sentences with slightly different meanings by throwing in ak or not, skin or kak or not. Yes, Chester?
Do you have a word for sunny periods?
Sunny periods?
Like, how was it always say, upsweet?
Ah, upsweet. Yeah. Like the sun comes through the clouds. So let's talk about, it's very stormy now, okay? We'll build a simple sentence, then we'll make some slightly more complicated sentences. Wixi. Stormy. Wixima. It is stormy. Wixi. Stormy. Wixikak. Very stormy. Wixikakma. It's very stormy. Wixikakma. Okay, now we're going to add in ak, and when we add ak to kak, the Q will harden to a pharyngeal stop, because that's what how Q likes to harden in your child. So let's build that word. Wixi. Stormy. Wixikak. Very stormy. Wixikak. Very stormy now. Wixikakatma. It is very stormy now. Wixikakatma.
So kak can mean a lot or very, right?
Yeah, a lot or very. It can also mean big.
Big.
Yeah. Chakupak is a well-endowed man, and Tutsmakak is a well-endowed woman. Okay, let's try a few more. Akanat hatnas. How is the day? Uchkak. Foggy. Uchkakma. It is foggy. Uchkakwak. So here, when we add kak to uchkak, this K rounds. Uchkakwak. And the reasons for that are complicated to explain. It's better to just get used to it. Yeah, very foggy now. Uchkakwak. Uchkakwakatma. It's very foggy now. This is an example where you have a lot of meaning packed into one word. Okay, let's try another. Let's try Kwisa. Kwisa ha. Is it snowing? Kwisa ha. Kwisa at ha. Is it snowing now? Kwisa at ha. Kusama. Yes, it's snowing. Kusama. Kwisa atma. It's snowing now. Kwisa atma. Kwisa skin atma. It's snowing a little now. Kwisa skin atma. How would we say snowing a lot? Kwisakap. Short. Kwisakap. Kwisakapma. It's really snowing. Kwisakapma. How would we throw in an ut? It's really snowing now. Kwisakapma. Let's pronounce that by syllables. Kwi. Sa. Ha. At. Ma. So this is an example of how you can use word building to learn to say complicated words. I hope that you will start using the word building method on your own without needing me to lead you through it. But I will continue to give you lots of examples of how you can use word building. What I found when I started using word building to help myself improve in Nuchanov was that at the beginning, I had a lot of trouble saying these long, complicated words like Kwisaha'atma. It's a lot, you have to do a lot just to produce that one word. And if you're a beginner, it takes time to walk through all those steps. Fluent speakers are able to do it as fast as they can exhale and speak words. So what word building does is it trains your brain to do that really fast. And adding one ending at a time helps you move from not being able to do it at all to doing it a little bit and doing it slowly to doing it fast. So the intended effect of our word building practice is to train your brain to put together long, complicated words really fast. What we learned in this unit, the core of it was 12 weather words. Mitla, Kwisa, and yeah. We also learned how to ask how. How is it now? I don't know how it is. And that led to a short discussion of the difference between direct and indirect questions, which we'll come back to many times in future classes. Then we first had some conversations where we made very simple words. How is the weather? Mitla, is it raining? Wikma mitla, it's not raining. Kusama, it's snowing. Then we made slightly more complicated words and sentences just by adding in these three endings. At, skin, and kak. And we saw that being able to use these three endings gives us the power to say a lot more interesting things, but some of them are complicated to use. At is complicated because it's a hardening ending. Kak is complicated because this Q is sometimes pronounced and sometimes not, and because kak affects its stem. It can shorten vowels in its stem. And we'll see that there are a lot of endings like this in Nuchanov that change the shape of their stem when you add the ending on. There was another thing that Chester clarified for me that I thought you would be interested in. So I was using the example of my bottle to talk about different words for hot and cold. If we're talking about the temperature of the liquid inside the bottle, we would use klopmahs or mas'ahs. Klopmahs, hot liquid, mas'ahs, cold liquid. But if we're talking about the temperature of the bottle itself, like how it feels on the outside, then we would use the words klopah or mas'ah, because there we're talking about a hot or cold thing. Do you see? Mm-hmm. So klopahs and mas'ahs are pretty general in meaning, anything that feels hot or cold. But then we have these specific words for vessels. Nuchanov has a highly developed vocabulary for vessels because vessels are so important in the culture. Mm-hmm. Next week, we're going to talk about numbers. And I failed again this week to send you out material ahead of time, but I'm gonna keep trying and eventually I'm gonna send it out one day and then 2 days and 3 days ahead of time. But some of you already have materials on numbers, so review that if you want to prepare for next week. George, so in that ship, I call Mahsama, Siwa, in this who ask Os, I hope to see you all again. See you all next Thursday. Juge.
Hey, David, I think you have my sheet.
Oh, that's coming. I took some sheets.
You need to go with me like
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's one.
Oh, yeah, you guys were writing on it. I didn't even notice. It's just like, okay, it's fine. I have it.
If I could get some love with the chairs and have them stacked up in helpful things. I usually put them in the back.
It's all right.
Thank you.
It's weird. I look out and like, that's a huge picture of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome. I figured she must be busy. I haven't seen her in a little bit either.
I'd rather, it's really hard to explain. I'd rather enrich them further. What is it on the
Oh, just because the schools. I'm gonna have to wait.
These other ones don't. Yeah, the problem is these ones don't come back here. That's like, we usually bring them ones up there. I kind of figured out that system a little bit. These ones kind of go different place because they're
Over at Epsilon, I go, Kate. Yeah.
So these chairs, again, you kind of want to.
Here's fine, but I'm going to table in and.
Yeah.
So you want this table too?
Yeah, I was at the front. Where I love my crap.
Did you?
I got it. She didn't. But it's the correct email.
Are you getting home tonight?
I'm just gonna bus to ride.
100%.
Thank you. I don't live far. I live by Apple Trade. She's on Arbor there.
Oh, okay.
Going to share.
No, she said they stay there.
Oh, but that
table,
table.
yeah.
Yeah.
What is that table?
The big one pulls out this way. Hang on, I'm gonna end
Oh,
this.
okay, but I'm talking about this little guy here.
We can put him in the corner for now. No one puts baby in the corner. Sorry.